Hello, everyone. So thank you very much for being here. To me, it's a pleasure to share with you the findings of my research that is, the title is International Students Understanding of Basic Academic Rules in Different Stages of Their Academic Program. This is the second, what I will share here with you is the phase number 2 of the research. So the research, well, of course, have two phases, number 1 and number 2, and I will go in details, but the purpose of the research, both stages, both phases, is kind of the similar one. And the first one is that, as we know, Canada is a very popular destination for international students. And to say the least, in my classes, I will say that more than around 80 to 85% of my students are international students. So as a general studies professor, one of the questions that I ask myself, and this is the purpose of this research, is to try to look in how international students understand academic rules, the basic academic rules. So the statement is this one. So basic academic rules, and I am talking about due date, grade review, extensions, sometimes cases of plagiarisms. Basic academic rules or agreements, as the name suggests, could be considered normal or a common understanding in the Western academia, but they are not common in all the academic traditions. So based on this idea, I start to look and ask myself, so how could I go inside my students' mind and try to find out, when I say the due date is tomorrow, what my students really understand? And I decide, well, probably the best way to approach this is to gather the information the students, is to gather the requests and complaints that students make, but what kind of requests students make and what kind of arguments they use when they ask you for an extension, for a grade review. And by looking at the arguments, I try to find out, by analyzing the arguments, I try to find out what is the real meaning behind the request, what they really understand by due date, what they really understand by grade review. And this is what I did. So, but of course, I am a psychologist, but I cannot go inside my student's mind. So I need to look for a different approach. And what I did is that I decide to look at the historical students' communication, the emails that students send to their professor, requesting something or complaining about something. So the emails is the main source of data to me. And again, looking at the arguments that the students develop. And I did this in 2 different stages, okay? So the first one is the phase number 1 that took place, that analyzed historical students' communication from 2080 to 2090. And in this one, let me put this here, I analyzed more than 3,000 emails, and I identify more than 700 valid emails. And I will tell you what does I mean by valid emails. I am here having a hard time with, okay, now I find it. Okay. And the second stage, the phase number 2, took place in 2020. Again, I analyzed students' email. And in this case, we analyzed students' email from July 2020 to December 2020. And we analyzed more than 500 emails, and more than almost 600 valid request complaints were identified. And here's something related to the methodology that is relevant to to make it clear is that because the reason why I have two stages is because the first part, the phase number 1, was an exploratory study, and the second one was an experimental one. The first one was an exploratory study because the sample I used 45 courses, and all the courses, all the emails came from one instructor. And in the phase number 2 was more an experimental one, because I used 14 courses, but in this time, the courses and the emails came from 7 different instructors. Wonderful colleagues that voluntarily agreed to participate and help me. And because of that, it was a voluntary participation. So the sample was, the final sample has, let me see, 6 general studies courses. They are all beginners students, all courses that students take at the beginning of the program, and 8 business courses. All these business courses are courses that students took at the end of the program, okay? And why this sample and why the design of the sample? Because now this in phase number 2, this is the question that I have been trying to answer with the research. And the question is, does the students' understanding of basic academic rules change as they advance in their program? And well, yes, these are the beginners, a baby here, and the advanced student here. So assignment resubmission change? Do they exceptions, rules on ideas change? Do they extension, the way they understand that change? And grade review and plagiarism assessment? And let me share with you what we did. Here I have something interesting, and this one that I want to share should be taken only as a anecdotal data. Okay, so in the process of gathering the data, as I said before, 7 of my colleagues at Yorkville University agreed to participate. So each of my colleagues were in charge to download the specific emails that specific group of students sent in a period of time, let's say fall term and summer term. And it was a very demanding activity because it's a very detailed, and we use a software, but you know, it was a time-consuming activity. But let me share these 2 elements that I found when my colleagues were helping me to gather the data. First, look at this. Male professors tend to receive fewer request complaints than female professors. And it was so interesting because when my colleagues start to send me back the results, the databases, my male professors, you know, finish in a kind of 2-3 weeks. And my female professors start to ask me for extensions. Oh, Irene, I have a lot of females. I don't know what to do. Please, could I have an extension because I need more time? And I say, what an interesting one. And then I talked with one of my colleagues, and here is what my colleague said. My colleague said, if the rules, I mean, trying to look why you have only like 5 to 10 emails. And he said, well, if the rules are well established and all the instructions are clear, students don't need to contact me since they already know what my answer will be. And I say, well, what an interesting one. So, well, I know we can discuss that, and please, if you can help me understand this one, I am more than welcome to help me with that. And the second one was this one. We found identical emails. Absolutely identical emails. So identical emails were sent to professors from different emails accounts by students in different courses, in different terms. And because my colleagues are super kind with me, I ask one of my colleagues and say, did you notice this? And the professor said to me, yes, of course. It's a very common one. Some students use a template or forward the email from a friend, and they use the same email to ask you for an extension. I say, wow, what an interesting one. Or probably as something that happens, and this again is an anecdotal data. One of my students, I was teaching, and in a Zoom class, and I was there interacting with the students, and I asked one of my students, let's say Peter, hi Peter, what do you think about this? And the tiny box in Zoom answer me, oh, I'm sorry, Irene, I am not Peter, I am Mike, but Peter is now taking a shower, so I am in charge of the class, so feel free to ask me whatever you want. I am not working right now, and I am helping my friends, so that's why I am here, so no worries, I can answer your question. I say, oh, what an interesting one. But probably these identical emails can be explained, but one student that is the one that, is the one that helped the students, help their friends, and send probably identical emails. So I don't know, this is something that I want to share because it was something that surprised me. Okay, and this is what we did. So again, so what we are doing is what we are trying to understand how the students understand basic academic agreements. So we use the emails and we use the content analysis as the methodology. So each type of argument receive a code. And yes, it was a kind of 2-month activities analyzing this. I did the analysis with a senior specialist in content analysis that helped me with that. And let me share with you the results. Here are the results. So, and I will go, oops, is just 1 second. Okay, sorry, I thought that the time was. So here are the results. So assignment resubmissions, due date exceptions, due date extensions, grade review, plagiarism assessment. Discriminate by beginners and advanced. Okay, so as you can see here, the first data that we have, the first information that the data provide us is that advanced students are the one that request or complain more. And that makes sense. Advanced students are more familiar with the university dynamics, so it's a kind of logic data. But if we look here, I will go only with 3 of these. And if we look here, the due date exceptions, the differences is really, really big. I mean, more than 269. And due date exception, what does it mean, due date exception? So the university, the due date exception can be granted under specific circumstances, like if one of your family, if major illnesses, a death in the family or similar situations, and students should prove that, okay? And this is when the professor can make a due date exception based on the Yorkville University regulations. And I will go in details with this one. The second one is the grade review. As you can see here, the students that ask for or request a grade review are the beginners more than the advanced students. This is the second one that I will go in detail. And the third one is related to plagiarism. So it seems that the students, that advanced students are the one that complain the most. So let me go now in details with the arguments. So here, well, here is the same data in a different format. It's sometimes graph help us understand. And as you can see here, yes, the due date exception is the highest one, more than 200. So I will go with this one and grade review, just to share with you some of the results. So here the due date exceptions, that is probably one of the most interesting one. And
sorry
here,
to interrupt you, Irene. It's 15
yes.
minutes, Mark. 15 minutes.
Oops. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So here, thank you. The due date exceptions. The main argument that the students use is the due date is a suggestion. So please, I mean, if I couldn't submit the paper, could you please change the date on Moodle? And they think that, well, by changing the date on Moodle, the problem is solved. Or they just send you the paper by email, and that's it, without arguments. The second one is a grade review. The grade review request is more common among beginners, students that start the program, but the argument is not related to the grade. I mean, it's not related to review an assignment. They want you to increase their grade, and they ask you, please give me more grades, or just give me passing grade. And this one, the plagiarism one, well, the students that complain the most are the advanced students. And the argument they use is, I'm sorry, professor, it was the wrong assignment, let me submit another one. So based on these and all these elements, the conclusions are this one. So regardless of the stage of their academic programs, beginner or advanced, students offer a constellation of arguments to support their request complaints. So, and the idea that a request complaint should follow and be guided by the university formal regulations seems not to be relevant to the students. So the arguments that they use, they consider the arguments as a valid argument. And this is the first conclusion. The second one is that ideally, when the students move from beginners to advanced, we should expect that they reduce the complexity and they attach the request to the regulations. But this is not what what was identified. More than that, the students that complain the most and request the most outside the regulations are advanced students. Third one, and this one is surprised me, why too many due date exceptions were requested. More half of the requests are due date exceptions. And I have 4 ideas. The first one, could these results be considered a side effect of the COVID pandemic? Could the high frequency of due date exceptions requested be telling us that students were not ready for studies at the university level? Or could the high number of due date exceptions requested be telling us that we need to review the number of assignments given to students in each course? Probably we are asking them for too many assignments. And the last one, and is that the plagiarism incidents among advanced students should be carefully analyzed. The fact that they complain about or they explain the cases of plagiarism, it doesn't mean that they plagiarize more than the beginners. They only mean that they complain more about the result. However, based on the arguments they make to support their complaints or to explain the case, it seems that plagiarize an assignment is not unacceptable per se. It is only unacceptable if they get caught. So I think that I make it in the 20 minutes. So here are the results of my research.